Whether you drive a car,
need a car,
or just occasionally bum a ride with friends,
you've come to the right place.
Join Jill and Tom as they break down everything that's going on in the auto world.
New car reviews,
Shopping tips,
driving green,
electric cars,
classic cars,
and plenty of great guests.
This is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast.
All right, this is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast. I am Tom Appel. Thanks for joining us today. Hey, when you get a chance, do me a solid. Check us out at consumerguide.com. While you're there, check out our 2024 Best Buy picks. We've got a show coming up on the 2024 Best Buy picks. But the list is handy if you are looking for a new car or truck. Plus, you can stream or research back episodes of the podcast right there on our homepage. All right, she is North American Car of the Year juror. She is editor-in-chief of senior editor or what?
He never gets that right. Managing editor.
Managing editor of Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. And she's a little sarcastic. Happy birthday, Jill.
Thank you.
Jill Simonillo.
Yes.
Big 6-0. How does it feel?
80. I thought I was 80.
80, 60.
You know.
60's the new 80. No,
Yeah.
80's the new 60.
Yeah. Tom and I have this joke. He always makes me a lot older than what I really am. I am not 60 or 80. Though I'm not going to tell you how old I am.
I'm not 60.
No, you're older than 60, aren't you?
No, but I'm creeping close. I'm creeping close. And not too far from now, next month.
Oh, yeah.
All my buddies turn 60 at the same time next year. It'll be weird.
Yeah.
We're old.
Well, you know.
We I remember I met my friend Bob at third grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was an empty nester. That's just weird.
Yeah. Well, you know what I want to say is age is a state of mind. You're only as old as you feel.
No, that's not true.
I think it's totally true.
We actually sit around and start talking about the things that are wrong with our bodies. So it's a natural aging process.
I don't have that conversation.
Yeah.
I have nothing wrong. I am perfectly young.
If you had a messed up knee, you'd have that conversation.
No.
All right.
No.
There you go. Aging. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Part of your birthday celebration, though I didn't make this official, was that we went and picked out donuts together today.
We did.
And you got yourself something really boring.
I did. Well, kind of boring, but I give me cinnamon and I am happy. So I did. It was like an apple cider donut coated in cinnamon and sugar.
Was it good?
It was really good. I already ate it.
By the way, that was Morkes Chocolate and Palatine.
Yes, it was really good.
Yeah, we didn't go to Spunky Dunkers, where Morkes doesn't charge you to use a credit card. And then what did you get, producer Randy?
It is a maple donut with peanuts.
Man, I should have gotten a donut.
You should have.
Yeah, I need to
I would
lose
have picked
weight,
one out
though.
for you.
All right, we got a lot going on today.
We do.
We're talking to Stanley Horaczek of Popular Science.
Yes.
About their list of top auto trends for 2024. Mm-hmm. We've got that going on. You and I are talking Cadillac Lyriq finally.
Finally.
We had a lot of planning.
Yes.
But Cadillac got us Lyriq specifically to talk about on the podcast.
Yes.
So we're going to do that.
Yes.
And let's just do a shout out now.
Yes.
A shout out to Motorworks of Barrington.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of dealerships in one location, but they have a Caddy dealership. They have the new Caddy EV store, right? They invested the money. They got the chargers.
Yep.
And they've got a crazy Star Trek looking all glass room that you take delivery in.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool looking.
It is. It is really cool. And they've got like a charger in there. They delivered the vehicles to us shiny clean and fully charged. But I have to say, I took delivery of my Lyriq on a snowy day and it didn't clear up. So I have pictures and photos and video of the vehicle that we drove and it's all messy. And I feel bad about that.
People want to check out my review for a very clean.
Yes.
Very, very clean Cadillac Lyriq. Well,
Tom had a clean drive. I did not.
Well, no, that was at the end. I actually drove it to Milwaukee and back. I had to wash it.
Okay.
I had to wash it.
Yeah. Today, today's an icky day, and so washing it would have done nothing for me.
So we'll get back to the Lyriq. We haven't even said what the Lyriq it is, but it's Cadillac's first all-electric vehicle. It's a mid-size crossover, and it's really cool looking, and it's generally very impressive.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed my time. So backing up a little bit, this is not a normal test for you and I. Usually we get a vehicle for a week, and we get it from fleet managers who work directly with the automakers. And this was delivered to us from the dealership, and we both got it for 2 weeks.
Because we are influencers.
Well,
I still have to turn and laugh when I think about being an influencer. But we'll get back to that in just a moment. You know what I wanted to talk about real quick? Couple of things. One, you and I picked you up at the dealership.
You did.
You dropped off the car.
Yep.
And we rode in the Chevy Trailblazer.
Yes.
Trailblazer RS, loaded.
Yes.
This is all the Trailblazer you can buy. This is Chevy's subcompact crossover that is positioned above the tracks, though it is no larger than the tracks.
But it has all-wheel drive.
But it has all-wheel drive. I think it comes with a slightly larger engine, like by 1/10.
0.0001
because I think
horsepower.
it's a 1.3 liter engine instead of a 1.2 liter engine. If you get all-wheel drive.
Okay.
But when we think about small crossovers and very small crossovers, we're always talking CR-V, we're always talking RAV4, and maybe we're talking Rogue. And then smaller than that, there's not a lot of stuff out there, or it's much smaller.
Right.
And the Chevy plays in a very weird space and a very weird price place, but I kind of forget that the Chevy is pretty good.
Yeah.
And I've been driving this thing, and when you got into the car, I asked you your evaluation of the cabin. And we both decided it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Some hard plastic.
Yep.
But it's a relatively affordable vehicle. But I like this car.
Yeah.
I would be getting great mileage, I think. This extreme cold and then the snow, I had to use all-wheel drive. I think hurt my mileage, but I think you can break 30 at regular driving in the summer.
Yeah.
But the ride is nice, the handling is nice, the power is good. I'll complain about the noise that a 3-cylinder engine makes. But the Rogue is a 3-cylinder, and it's selling very well. The power is fine. The 9-speed automatic, there's a lot of 9-speeds out there that kind of suck. This is a really good one. It keeps the engine in the power band. It doesn't do too much shifting. It's on my radar. That's all I'm saying. I haven't reviewed it yet, but I liked it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that about the Chevy Trax from last year. That was probably one of the most underrated vehicles that I drove and one of my favorite vehicles that I drove last year.
The Trax is mechanically similar to this, but substantially cheaper.
Yeah.
And there are things about it that are cheaper. The cabin is cheaper. It's a little bit louder. It's built differently. It's built to hit a price point. But man, it's roomy. It's affordable. The Trax is interesting.
Yep.
All right. That was my little sidetrack. I have a lot.
Tangent.
I have a lot of notes here. Next week, two guests.
Okay.
Jennifer Miranda of the Chicago Auto Show is going to stop by in the first segment just to talk about the auto show, which is coming up fast.
Yes.
Also, if you are in Chicago and don't care about the Super Bowl, go to the auto show that day. It's going to be
empty.
It's going to be wide open.
And there's also
Nick DiGilio, my friend and our guest recently. Nick DiGilio is going down there on Super Sunday.
Yeah. Well, and if you are a runner at all, because I know Tom loves to talk about running.
I do, yeah.
It's his favorite thing.
Yeah.
They have a race on Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, is that when
at
it is?
the auto show, and it's called Miles Per Hour, and it's open for registration now, kararuns.org, and it's a 1-hour race, so it literally is an hour, and the goal is to see how far you can go in an hour.
And you were sort of responsible for pushing for this nightmare.
I was.
I mean, this event.
I was.
It's
not a nightmare. So Dave Sloan, who was the president and general manager of the auto show at the time, told me he used to run the floor before the auto show would open. And I'm like,
that's cool.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And
he's a big-time runner.
Yeah.
Like a really good runner, too.
Yeah, really good Boston qualifier runner. And so I joined the board for the Chicago Area Runners Association. I was like, CARA meet CATA. There's a relationship to be had here. And so I'm very excited about it. But because, the auto show has to open, that's why you only have an hour.
There you go.
It's very cool.
Yeah, running.
Your favorite thing.
People should check it out if they're into running. I just don't care.
You could walk it.
You care.
You could walk it. I care.
This is half your show.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Thank
there you go. All right. I was going to say something. Oh, Dave Sloan. Yeah, president of Chicago Automobile Trade Association, an avid and successful runner.
Yep.
And more importantly, to anyone who knows about cars, used to own a Renault Fuego.
Fuego.
All right.
Okay.
We should talk a little bit.
We are totally digressing.
Yeah.
We need to go back to Cadillac Lyriq.
I really wanted to get my Lyriq review written last night.
Right.
So that we could talk about it today. And
Okay.
I did finish. And one of the things I did was spell Lyriq with a C.
A lot.
Like 19
I did that
times.
a lot.
Lyriq is Lyriq.
Yeah.
IQ is the end of every Cadillac EV coming in the future.
Yes. Even the Escalade IQ.
Not IC.
No, Escalade.
Yeah. So I was up this morning when I should have been getting ready for the show, changing ICs to IQs.
Got it.
But it's fixed now.
Yeah.
And I will link to that. And then you've got a video done?
I recorded the video coming into the studio today, and so that will be up probably this week. But I have a lot of TikToks because I know that's your other favorite topic.
But the car is always filthy.
Yeah, the car is always filthy, unfortunately. Like, literally picked it up in the middle of a snowstorm and turned it in the middle of slush. So.
Which is a shame because we drove the same vehicle at different times, and the crystal white paint is pretty luminescent. It's a good color.
I never got to see the luminescence.
Well, we also haven't seen any sun.
No.
So let's talk a little Lyriq. This is Cadillac's first all-electric EV. Kind of a big deal. And if the story goes, it's got some backstory. They had a problem putting together the batteries.
Okay.
So there's been a delay in production. They're only at production now, really. There was a 2023.
Right.
Not a lot of them got made. Additionally, Cadillac dealers, a lot of Cadillac dealers, a lot of legacy old school dealers that went back to, franchises from the 10s, 20s, and 30s, got out of the business. They didn't want to do electrics. And what we've got is dealerships now getting ready, like we talked about Motorworks, with the crazy delivery room.
Yeah.
And that stuff. And they've got chargers and they've got people. We worked with a guy named Evelyn at the dealership, and that guy knew everything about this vehicle. Yeah,
he was great, super helpful. And and the dealership itself, just looked really good.
So that's a cool thing. It's a good thing to know that dealerships are getting ready to sell EVs, and then Caddy is ready to sell these vehicles. But we should talk about the vehicle itself, and frankly, I thought it was pretty great.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time. I know you drove about, I'm looking at your miles driven, about 321 miles.
You can see that from there.
I can see that from here.
So
which, hence I'm young.
You're probably not 60.
No, I am not 60.
Yeah.
But I drove, I would say.
Can you read it now?
No, because your hand is covering it.
Yeah, so you're over 45.
Yeah.
If you can't read it with my hand in the way.
Through your hand?
Yeah.
I probably drove closer to 600 miles.
Wow.
I drove twice the amount.
Way to show me up.
But because I drove to Indianapolis and back, and a lot of the driving that I did was cold weather driving, like negative degree driving.
Yeah, I was more typical Chicago weather. It was in the 30s.
Yeah, and so I want to say the biggest thing that I liked about driving this in cold weather is the range estimator for the percentage of battery was not awful. Like sometimes those are very inaccurate, and this was fairly accurate. I over 200 miles, I would say the most it was off was about 5%. So like it would say that I would arrive at my destination with 20% battery life, and I arrived with 15% battery life. And to me, that's acceptable. And I like looking at the percentage much more than looking at the miles of range, because I think EVs don't know how to estimate that.
And that's the way we used to use gas gauges too.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
And a gas gauge doesn't know that you're going to hit the gas really hard at some point. So.
No. So the percentage of battery was fairly accurate, and I really liked that. I liked the way it looked. I liked the accents on the interior. It looks a little bit more like a wagon on the exterior than it does an SUV. But
it does in a cool way.
Yeah, in a cool way. I like the lighting signatures.
Kind of a ducktail thing going on.
Yeah, I like the interior lighting. There were a couple of things that are not my jam. I'll say that. They're not my jam.
I've never heard that before.
It's not my jam. I didn't like the fact that you had to go tap to get to the camera button.
Oh, okay.
So if you were in drive and you were trying to make sure you weren't going to like run over a curb or something, if you wanted to turn that camera on, you had to hit the home button, then you had to like hit the camera button.
Okay.
So there's no quick button for that.
And this doesn't have any programmable buttons, does it?
Not that I saw.
Okay. For people who don't know, a lot of cars have on the dash somewhere, it's often a physical key.
Yeah.
Where you can program it to do one particular thing that you go to often.
Yeah.
I never programmed that, but that's handy.
Yeah. Or you can drop and drag, and I don't think you could drop and drag on this. And so
that feels like a Volkswagen thing.
Yeah, or Stellantis lets you drop and drag.
Oh yeah.
But so that was kind of annoying. And the other thing, I'm undecided on how I feel about it, but I know we've seen it before in the Chevy Colorado. There is no physical dial for your light switch to turn your lights on and off. It's a screen on the left side that you have to turn. If you leave it on auto, you never have to touch it. But there are a lot of people out there who are like, but I turn my lights on and off all the time.
I want to talk about that screen, because what you have, and this is Cadillac typical now, is a single contiguous display. That is your console on the right, your instrument panel in the middle. And then this is handy because they put stuff there, another screen to the left of the steering wheel.
Yep.
And it's less used stuff, but I believe it's screen configuration and headlights, I think, are the things that you can do from there. And there's some other things, maybe drive modes. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a cool thing.
Drive modes. But
it's quick access to some stuff.
Yeah.
So I like that.
But not your camera button.
Not your not your camera button. I had 1.5 problems with this car, and we'll get to those in a moment.
1.5?
1.5.
Okay.
But I was generally super impressed. Roomy cabin, I thought it was beautifully done. But the best thing about this, and manufacturers are starting to do this better, it doesn't force the EV experience on you. If you just want to get in and drive this thing, you don't need to care that it's an EV.
Right.
Right? And there's not a lot of blue lights or green lights that glow at you to remind you that it's eco, anything like that. The power delivery is fantastic. Most EVs are, but that's very good. On the highway, very quiet.
See, now, I didn't think it was that quiet.
Interesting. That might be the cold.
It could be. And I will say, between Chicago and Indianapolis, there's this 10-mile stretch of road by Fair Oak Farms, if anybody out there is familiar with it.
And it's just raw concrete?
It's like, well, it goes...
Oh.
And, and it's... Every time I drive on this, I always feel like I have a flat tire.
Yeah.
So I noticed it specifically there, but in addition, like some wind noise was creeping into the cabin, and it just, to me, it wasn't as quiet as some other EVs that I've driven.
See, I found it very quiet. I wonder if it's the 40-degree temperatures.
It could be. It could be.
Because the tires would be harder.
Yeah.
Also, the roads up to Milwaukee from Chicago, I think, are generally blacktopped.
Right.
Which goes a long way to keeping things quiet, too. But I found it quiet. The standard stereo is not the AKG available stereo, which bummed me out, because the standard stereo is okay.
Well, I'm not an audiophile. I was fine with it. I thought it was good.
But my wife and daughter liked the car. The great news was the range in 30-degree temperatures was accurate.
Yeah.
Like I was getting the 307 advertised miles of range.
Oh.
So I was pretty impressed. Now, here's a thing I did consciously. EVs lose all their range if you go from 70 to 80 miles an hour. Like 70 is a threshold you don't want to break. So I set the cruise for 70.
Yeah.
And that did it. I'm sure that if I drove the regular 80 that I drive to Milwaukee, that would have killed my range. So a little bit relaxed, but I got all my range. Didn't need to charge. I did charge, and I had a horrible experience.
Yeah, the biggest problem with the any EV, not specifically the Cadillac Lyriq, but any EV is the charging experience.
Yeah, no, I had a terrible experience in an Electrify America station where I was standing in the rain holding my credit card because my app wasn't working. And I'm trying to do it. I tried to do it twice. I'm being soaked by rain at this charger that was not working. As a result of my complaint about this on X, by the way, I got a call from Electrify America that didn't really solve anything. It's like, oh, what's your problem? My problem is it doesn't work. Oh, sorry about that. You know,
it's like, don't call me. Don't waste my time then.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
Thanks.
And then eventually they rebooted the thing. I had to call, have them reboot it, and then it worked. And then my receipt said that I was getting energy at a rate of 133 kilowatts. But while I was watching, I never saw 70. Huh. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So it took forever. I didn't need to charge, as it turned out, but it was just an act of caution.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's something else I want to point out with this Cadillac system that I really, really liked. And this is an Android, based Google operating system, so you have to use the Google Maps. And what I thought was really interesting.
Got to use the Google.
But what I thought was really great is, so I'm leaving my apartment, and I think initially on my way out, I had like 80% of the battery. And so I put in my parents' address, and it said, you will arrive at -4% battery. Would you like to add a charging station? And I was like, oh, gee, yeah, I guess maybe I would.
You will not arrive at negative.
You will not arrive. So I added
You will arrive 6 blocks short.
Right. And so I added in the charging station, which is in Lafayette, Indiana. It's the only one between Chicago and Indianapolis. So added that in. And so then what it did is it said, okay, you will arrive at this waypoint at 42% battery. And then when you get there, it says you need to charge up to at least 65% to, we recommend that you charge up to 65%.
Who's making that? The car is making that?
The car is making that
recommendation.
So the system made the recommendation, charge up to 65% to, go on with your trip. And I mean, I did. And it what it does is it just, it precludes you, is that the word I want? It stops you from, oh, I have to get up to 80%. I've got to get up to, which takes an extra half an hour. But like if if it's planning it out and it's accurate, which it was, and it tells you what charge you need to get up to finish your trip.
That's cool.
So I like that.
Do you happen to know what the charge rate was?
So it varied every single time.
Yeah.
So that time, I want to say it was at between like 80 and 90 kilowatts.
Uh-huh.
When I was at another Electrify America station in charging up in Indianapolis, it was like 50 kilowatts.
Yeah.
And it took me an hour and 2 minutes to go from 22% to 80%. And then when we went back through and stopped at Lafayette, I picked a different charger, and I was charging at 180 kilowatts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great.
So
what was the brand of that charger?
It was Electrify America.
And you were getting 180.
Yep. And it was the same station that I went to on the way out, but a different charger.
Weird.
So it just, I mean, it's all this weirdness that happens with chargers.
Yeah, the Altium system will take charging it up to 190 kilowatts, which is very fast.
Yeah, and
That's
I was
Tesla fast.
super impressed with that.
All right, we're actually out of time here, but I wanted to talk real quick about the price.
Yeah.
This seems like a bargain.
Yeah.
68 grand for the vehicle we drove.
Yep.
And I want to point out that I just drove the Hyundai Ioniq 6, which is a heck of a nice little sedan. That's 58 grand.
Yeah.
So for 10 grand, you're getting a much bigger car, luxury interior that is quieter, roomier, more cargo space, way friendlier on a long drive.
A lot more luxurious.
Yeah, yeah. And the Hyundai's a great car. I'm not knocking that car, but 10 grand, well spent here. And this vehicle qualifies.
Yep, I was just going to say that.
I think it does at the moment, but here's the thing about 2024. If it does not qualify, General Motors will pay you that money.
Yeah.
So either way, you're getting the $7,500 tax credit.
So really, it's only
way.
like $2,500 different.
Right now.
Yep.
That's the deal. So I'm impressed by this car. Thank you to Motorworks of Barrington in Illinois. Thank you to Ivelin for his help.
Yeah, thank you to Cadillac for finding us.
Yeah, we appreciate that. My 1.5 problems.
Oh, yeah.
I thought the ride was a little firm around town.
Okay.
Not very firm, but I expected it to be cushier. It's not. That may be fine. I actually like the ride. The other problem is I was having some problem with the steering wheel audio controls. And every time I restarted the car, if I restarted the car, that problem would go away. But basically the song advance function was not working.
Yeah.
It's a haptic button.
You know,
Very weird.
I didn't even use that because I don't care
You
about
don't care.
music.
Yeah, there you go. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we talk to Stanley Horaczek of Popular Science. Stick around.
Questions or comments?
Drop us a line at carstuff@consumerguide.com.
That's carstuff@consumerguide.com. Welcome back to the Car Stuff Podcast.
All right, we're back. This is the Car Stuff Podcast. I'm Tom, she's Jill, and this is the time of the show that I usually just sort of promote myself shamelessly.
Shamelessly.
So I'll just shoot it out there. I am on Twitter. I am on X. That's where I talk about cars. Great conversations with lots of cool people. You want to jump in on those. It's fun. A lot of classic car stuff. And as I mentioned before, I learned on Twitter that Dave Sloan of the CATA owned a Renault Fuego.
Well.
Yeah, so
well
that's
then.
the thing. So I'm Car Guy Tom on Twitter.
Okay.
And then I did a quiz. I do quizzes that are meaningless.
You do.
And they're fun, but they're meaningless. So I'm going to ask you this question. Jill, which dead brand luxury car brand do you wish was still around? Are you ready?
Okay.
Cord, Imperial, Continental, or Packard?
You know, I saw this one and I'm like, I'm not familiar enough with any of those brands to say that I want any of them.
Well, Cord came out of Indiana. Classic old school brand. Didn't make it through the Depression. Imperial used to be Chrysler's. It used to be a premium version of Chrysler.
Okay.
And they were on Cadillac level. Continental, of course, was Lincoln, like a premium Lincoln brand. It was usually often just one car. And then Packard was Packard. It was a standalone premium brand that fell, sadly, into common pricing before its failure in the early 60s.
Okay.
But, do you want to guess which one was most popular?
Packard?
It was Packard.
I was like, that's one of the only brands I think I've on that list that I've really heard of. So I could just see people answering that because they've heard of it.
And then strangely, I found a picture of a Packard. I found a Packard covered with snow.
Okay.
Look at that.
That is covered with snow.
Like that's
and
one
it
of
is
the
a Packard.
most distinctive grills you'll ever see. So there you go. While we're talking social media, you're on social media.
I am.
To a frightening degree, to to like I think that the internet would slow down a little bit if you simply stopped doing social media stuff.
Probably, because, I really am an influencer. No. So TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Post.
I forget, what is Post?
Threads. Post is more of like a news platform. That was the first answer to Twitter's.
No relationship to Raisin Bran.
No.
Okay.
No relationship to Raisin Bran. But no, I think Post was the first like kind of offshoot of when people were like, "What? We don't want to use Twitter anymore. What can we use?" So they created that, but it's turned into more of like a news feed, which is great. Good. And then the Threads, which is linked to Instagram. So, but yeah, on all of those things, I'm at Jill Simonello, and I use the hashtag car du jour. And I have, hearkening back to the Cadillac Lyriq, I have a whole bunch of videos on the Cadillac Lyriq on my TikTok.
So people should check that out.
Yes.
Here's a weird thing about X. I'm still on X. People want me to.
And you're calling it X. I'm super impressed by that, by the way.
Yeah, it's just easier.
Is it easier?
Steve and Johnny want me to move off X as well as other people. But the car community there is pretty great. And I hate to leave that. But it's kind of bug me because there's like hyper partisan stuff showing up. And I don't know why it's showing up in my feed because I don't like this stuff. I didn't want to see it. So Elon Musk might make a good car battery, but he is destroying social media.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't pay I create lists on Twitter, and I think my lists are literally called people I care about. Auto PR people, and then but so I very rarely will just look at a Twitter feed straight. I go to my lists. And I will say, contrary to one of the previous reviews that we had gave us on our the Apple review for the podcast, I do like Tom. He is one of the people that is in the people I care about.
There you have it. I have no such list. I don't like anybody.
You don't see? It should be you don't like me.
Yeah, I don't have any such list. Fun surprise. After driving an insane variety of very large trucks and electric vehicles, guess what I'm driving as of tomorrow? A Nissan Sentra.
I was going to say something really boring.
A compact car that costs less than $30,000.
Okay.
Even fully loaded. It's an SR.
Okay.
I'm kind of looking forward to just driving a car.
Okay. Well, so I'll be very curious to talk to you about the Sentra versus the Impreza because both are under $30,000.
Yes, we should do that.
So.
All right, we're going to talk a little popular science now. When I was a kid, the only subscriptions my family had on a regular basis, National Geographic and Popular Science. Huh. Popular Science has been it's an American institution.
It is. And
today we have Stanley Horaczek of Popular Science to talk about trends in the auto industry. Stanley, how are you?
I'm doing well. No pressure representing an American institution.
An institution. I don't know if you remember any of this stuff. Do you remember something called Wordless Workshop?
I don't, no.
That's because you're not old. It was literally a comic strip in every episode of Popular Science. People should look it up. Go to the library, find an old issue from the 80s or 70s. It was by a guy named Doty, D-O-T-Y, and it told you how to fix something in your house very simply using cartoon diagrams. Fantastic stuff. But how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm in upstate New York, so if I go outside, it hurts. But other than that, I can't really complain.
We are in a reprieve from the cold. We're in Chicago, and it is like 30 right now.
Yeah, it's a balmy 30 degrees.
Yeah. I'm wearing shorts.
Okay, good. Yeah, I saw the footage a couple days ago with the Chicago River with steam coming off of it, and so
that is some dramatic stuff. Yeah. So you guys published an article recently, the top 5 auto trends for 2024. Tell us about that.
This is part of an initiative we've been doing for roughly 30 years now. I have not obviously been around for all 30 of those years. I only came on board here at PopSci back in 2017. But every year we do something called Best of What's New. And it sort of vacillates. It's been 50 things. Sometimes it's 100 things. This year it was 50 things. And it used to be a big magazine issue. Now we sort of do it all online. And we have 10 categories, and we pick 5 outstanding innovations or like really cool things. We sort of have these long battle meetings about like, well, this is really cool, but is it innovative? And this is really innovative, but do people care? and we sort of have to narrow it down every year into this list. And it's always really fun. It's a ton of work, but it is really fun. And, this year there's an auto category. And, this year we picked a couple of pretty cool winners, we think. Tell us what you got. Yeah, so, I think our grand award winner for the category was the BF Goodrich Active Air system, which is really cool. It's pretty narrow, but it's really cool. So it's essentially a central tire inflation system, a CTIS, which is not an entirely new concept, as I'm sure you all know, because it goes back to, roughly World War II times, right? The duck truck had something similar, but this is sort of a retrofitted version that goes on a Jeep Wrangler or a Jeep Gladiator. And essentially it's a little little touchscreen interface that goes on top of your dashboard, and it monitors tire pressure at all of your tires, and it lets you adjust the tire pressure in all the tires from the dashboard, which is something that you can kind of do. The Hummers have been doing it for a long time. Right. And the Hummer H2 famously had the cover for it on the wheel, but didn't actually have the system for it, which was always hilarious. But this is an actual system that actively monitors, because sometimes you want to air up or air down if you're driving over sand, if you're driving over rocks or something like that. But the cool thing about this system is that it actively monitors the tire pressure. So if you're rock crawling or something like that and you want to change the pressure in your tires, you're probably doing it on some kind of off-camber situation, And in that situation, that means there's more pressure on two of the wheels, one of the wheel. Okay. And so when you change the air pressure in the tires, all of a sudden now I'm driving on flat and now I'm crooked again because I changed the pressure while I was off-camber and now it doesn't make any sense. Well, this keeps track of that. So when you change your tires, you can sort of put it in one of these different drive modes, and it will actively respond instead of having to, go stop, okay, now I'm off the rocks. Now I have to stop, calibrate, and change the air pressure. You don't have to get out of your car. You don't even have to really pay attention to the readings. You can just tell it to adjust, and it will adjust. That's right up my alley. Anything that makes my life easier, I'm for it.
So you said this is available for Jeep products. Is this a dealer installed item, or do you have to go someplace? What does this cost, and how do you get it installed?
I don't actually know exactly what it costs right off the rip. I think it sort of varies depending on your trim. It's not cheap at the moment because you have to basically install 3 parts, which includes the wheels. You need a new set of wheels. Okay. You need a compressor to push air through the axle. The wheels are actually part of the system. Sure. It's pushing air from the compressor through the axles because you don't want tubes and stuff sticking out. This is for off-roaders essentially. So you don't want extra tubes. And then you need the control system, which goes onto your dashboard. So it's expensive, and it is not from the dealer. They're basically licensing places to put it in for you. So you'd have to go and put it on aftermarket, but it is an official sort of BF Goodrich product.
Cool. And obviously off-roaders would fully appreciate what this does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, as somebody who participates in the Rebel Rally, which is, a 1,500-mile off-road challenge where you're on rocks, and then you're on pavement, and then you're on sand, and then you're on pavement, and then you're on rocks, and then, all day long for 8 days, that would make life so much easier. So much easier.
Yeah, and, that's the whole... That's basically the whole. It's been tested. They said they've run it in Dakar and Ultra 4. They've used the technology. Maybe not the exact one. They're all those racers. They always want to use something that's exactly custom. But the technology is pulled largely from there, and that was sort of the inspiration for it. So pretty cool. And even in the past, that's where a lot of this cool tech comes from, is something will show up in F1 and then they'll make it on our list when it shows up in a car you can actually buy.
Cool. Stanley, I don't think we're going to get to all 5 things, so pick your favorite one and tell us about that.
My favorite, I think my favorite is probably the Polaris. Makes it really cool. They have the Ranger XP Kinetic, which is a Polaris side-by-side.
And what is that for people who don't know?
Yeah, so a side-by-side is essentially a really, really, really intense golf cart that you're meant to drive through the woods.
Well put, sir.
It is. So it's essentially like a big ATV. It's like a utility vehicle. It sort of exists between a four-wheeler and a small pickup truck. And, they call it a side-by-side because there's, two seats side by side. You can ride on it. And Ranger sort of teamed up with Zero Motorcycles, who makes awesome stuff. I got a chance to check out some of their stuff. And they sort of redesigned their entire electric offering. Because from 2010 to 2022, Polaris offered an electric side-by-side. And it ran on 48 volts worth of lead-acid batteries that were all daisy-chained together, which means you got very little range. The range wasn't actually so bad, but you couldn't go very fast. It wasn't very powerful.
A lot of weight.
It was really heavy. And, lead-acid batteries, when it's cold, they die, and they die for a whole variety of reasons, really. But the new Ranger X, the XP Kinetic, was announced, actually, I think, back in December of 2021, and then took all the way until last year to come out. And there's two versions, and one has a just under 15 kilowatt-hour battery, and one has just under 30 kilowatt-hours of battery. So you can get up to 45 miles of range out of the smaller one or 80 miles of range out of the bigger one. But it also tops out at roughly 60 miles an hour.
Excellent.
And it's extremely burly. You can carry 1,250 pounds on the vehicle itself, and it can tow up to 2,500 pounds, which is,
that's
pretty
impressive.
wild.
I got to ask, what does something like that cost?
Yeah, it's the cheaper version starts at $24,000, and the more expensive version starts at $29,000. So yeah, we're talking about a full car, essentially. But if you're using it as a work vehicle, you're getting 110 horsepower, 144 pound-feet of torque, that's available right away. So there's probably some people out there who could get some pretty solid use out of this. And there's probably some rich rednecks that I aspire to be one day who can really just make some really wonderful, entertaining YouTube videos.
I think we all aspire to that.
Oh yeah. No, I would have a good time with this thing, I think.
Stanley, before you go, tell us about the Lamborghini Revolto.
Yeah, so the Revolto is really cool. I mean, it's, if you were to say the idea of hybrid supercars is a very polarizing subject.
Yeah.
And I don't know how your audience responds to them, but they are ridiculous. This is a Lamborghini. It has a 12-cylinder engine in it, right? It makes just over 800 horsepower from the engine alone. But it also has 3 electric motors in it. And there's 2 at the front wheels, and then there's 1 in the transmission that pushes power to the rear wheels. And altogether, it does 1,001 horsepower, which means it'll do 0 to 62 in 2.5 seconds, 217 mile an hour top speed.
Wow.
So this is the most powerful, as far as I know, at least when we wrote this story, was the most powerful plug-in hybrid in the world. It just unseated the Ferrari SF90 Stradale, which I think that's how you pronounce it. I worry they'll send me a bill if I pronounce it wrong.
I think that's right. Don't go by me, but I think that's right.
Yeah. 1,001 horsepower, 217 miles per hour. And what's really funny about it is that if you go on the website for the car, it's a $600,000 car, by the way. You can plug in your headphones and you can hear the sound of the engine. But they've also created a custom sound that is supposed to replace the engine sound when you're just driving in electric mode.
Yeah.
And it kind of sounds like you just turned on an Xbox or something, or it's just really spacey sound. And I was curious. I was like, wow, I wonder how far you can drive it in electric mode. And you guys want to guess how far you can drive it on just the electric motors alone?
I don't know, but I'm going to guess low on this one. 18 miles. Joe?
I was going to say 30.
It's 6.
Oh, we're really, really low.
Yeah. So they really, really intend this to be a performance-based hybrid. Yeah. That is to make the car go faster, and that's pretty much it. Or to go check the mail at your mansion, I guess, if you really want.
So, Stan, this is a plug-in hybrid, though?
Yes.
It is. Okay, so you can plug in, and you're not plugging in for range then, you're just plugging in for the boost and performance. And then just to confirm, this is Lamborghini's first plug-in vehicle and first hybrid vehicle, correct?
I know it's the first of the time. I believe so. I think so. If I'm wrong, I deserve all the judgment I get. But
We'll forward the mail to you.
Yeah. Any hateful comments, absolutely send them my way. If they're in, I bet they're going to be in Italian, so I won't understand.
So we won't know
them anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, if we can't read them, we just delete them. Stanley, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us how people can read this article and catch the other two things we didn't get to.
If you go to Best of What's New 2023 with dashes between each of the words, which I know is not elegant. I really should have made a fancy URL for everyone before this. But yes, popsci.com/Best of What's New 2023. Put some dashes in there. You will find all the rest of them, and also a whole bunch of other really cool stuff. TVs that work totally wirelessly, and VR headsets, and every other manner of nerdy thing you can be excited about.
We love nerdy things. Stanley, thank you for joining us today.
No, thanks so much for having me, and I'm happy to join you guys anytime.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. I appreciate it. All right, that was Stanley Horaczek with Popular Science. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, it's quiz time.
Questions or comments?
Drop us a line at carstuff@consumerguide.com.
That's carstuff@consumerguide.com. Welcome back to the Car Stuff Podcast.
All right, we're back. This is the Consumer Guide Car Stuff Podcast. I'm Tom Appel. She is Jill Simonillo.
Yep.
She is in studio. We were talking Cadillac. We're talking Popular Science. And now it's quiz time.
Woohoo! See my excitement for the quiz?
My favorite part of the show. But first, I have to listen to you talk about social media. No, we covered it.
We already did it.
We covered it.
I know.
Oh, that's past. That's past.
I know. I could talk about it again. We could go back to TikTok.
You know, like you have a whole day and there's a business meeting you don't really want to go to. I don't have to go to that meeting now.
You already went to the meeting.
We went to that meeting. I have a great topic for you today, but it's a little conceptual.
Oh, great.
So I'm going to ask you a question about grade school.
Okay.
When you were in grade school, how did you remember the names of the Great Lakes?
Oh, was it Holmes?
Holmes.
Yeah.
So what are the Great Lakes?
Was it Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior?
Yeah, and the real big one, Superior. This is the same concept.
Okay.
In 1975.
Okay.
Which, shortly after
Before
you were born.
Whatever.
Yeah. Because you're 60.
I'm 60. Or 80.
General Motors in 1975
Okay.
had a platform it called the X platform, unrelated to the X cars that came out in 1980. In 1975, every single General Motors car division had an X car.
Okay.
People remember them by using the acronym NOVAs, N-O-V-A-S.
Nova.
Novas. I'm going to ask you these, and you're going to have to tell me if this is the correct car for that division using the NOVAs acronym. Are you ready?
I have no idea what you're talking about, so I do not expect to do well on this.
There's a car, N-O-V-S. So.
Well, I remember the Chevy Nova.
Okay. Well, you're going to get the first question.
Okay.
Every division had a car, and you remembered the names of the division's cars by using the acronym NOVAs.
My brain isn't working today
It's
because
going to
that
work
still
just
makes
fine.
no sense
The
to me.
first letter is N.
Okay.
That was the Chevy car. And
Okay.
You've already answered the question. Was it the Chevrolet Nova or the Chevrolet New Yorker?
Okay, Nova.
All right, you're on the board.
Woohoo!
Much to my disappointment.
I know.
Number 2.
Watch, I'll get 5 out of 5 just because I have no clue what I'm saying.
Possibly. That's how I fumbled through high school. Oldsmobile. You've heard of it?
Yes.
Dead brand. Mm-hmm. Cool looking cars for most of its existence. Anyway, the Oldsmobile car was an O.
Yes.
Was it the Omega or the Osella?
I've never heard of either of those in relation to a car.
Really?
Yeah. Can I go back to the Nova for a second?
You can.
Okay, so fun fact, the very first car I tried to drive a manual transmission on was a Chevy Nova.
Was it an 80s Nova that was basically a Toyota Corolla?
I think it was, because it was my friend Amy. You talk about meeting people when you were young, and I'm totally stalling here, but my friend Amy, that was her car. She tried to teach me how to drive a manual transmission when we were 16. It did not end well.
Wow. That was probably the Corolla-based Chevy. Good car.
Okay, so back to the Oldsmobile O car.
Stalin. Yeah. Omega or Osella? It is Omega.
Okay.
Ding, 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 ding,
As
ding.
in the Alpha or the
Osella
Omega?
is some sort of Italian racing engineering firm.
Okay.
You've got 2 for 2 on something you know nothing about.
I know, it's something I don't even understand what you're talking about.
Are you ready? Pontiac.
Okay.
Yep.
That's not an NOVA.
No. It's not. Something. Oh, yeah. Okay. You just threw me off. I'm like, what? No, this is right.
Well, and I have to say the quiz music totally played into it because it was like,
yeah, no, I'm totally sober. Why would you throw me like that?
Because
Pontiac.
I want to, yes.
Pontiac is the letter V. Was it the Vixen or the Ventura?
I can't imagine a car called the Vixen.
I can.
You clearly can because you made that up.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Ventura.
It is the Ventura. Also, I owned a Pontiac Ventura.
Okay.
1976 Pontiac Ventura. It was my high school cool car.
Okay, so if
Buick 350. It was a 2-barrel, 3-speed automatic. Threw on cool wheels and tires. Edelbrock intake. Removed the emission equipment. It was actually reasonably quick.
Okay.
Yeah, you're 3 for 3. It seems.
I don't know how that happened.
Buick,
Which was the A?
which was the A.
Okay, so now I'm kind of starting to understand your theme here.
Yeah, too late
NOVA.
now. We're like running out of time here.
Right? Okay.
Apollo or Achieva?
Ugh. Neither of those sound familiar either, so I'll go with Apollo.
It was Apollo. You were 4 for 4. The thing about the Apollo, very slow seller.
This is me stumbling my way through the quiz.
On this list, right, the Nova was super popular.
Okay,
It was a fleet car. It was a popular car. It was an affordable car. My dad owned a Nova. He had a 70 Nova. But the others didn't sell all that well, and the Apollo was especially rare.
And
Good-looking car. And they all looked exactly the same except for the grille and taillight treatments.
okay.
Yeah. But there are a lot of survivors out there, too. Finally, Cadillac.
Okay, there are no letters left.
There is the S, Novas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Cadillac's a little weird because it was pretty highly modified.
Okay.
Didn't have a leaf spring rear suspension, had a special engine, but it was based on this architecture. Was it the Seville or the 60 Special? 1975 compact Cadillac.
I know Seville was a Cadillac.
It was.
I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah, you are 5 for 5.
So
On what may be the stupidest quiz of the year.
and I have to say you didn't explain this quiz very well, and
Yeah.
so now
I was up late.
now that we've gone through, now I get it.
You want to do it again? You want to retake it?
No, because I got 5 out of 5, but now
Okay.
I understand what you were trying to say that you
Yeah.
did not explain very well at the beginning.
I didn't. No.
You totally didn't.
Okay, totally mentioned. I was up late. Yeah.
Fine, 2 a.m., writing your Cadillac
Yeah,
Lyriq
yeah.
review. Go to the website, check it out.
All right. Yes, check it out. People should check it out.
If you want to see Tom misspell Lyriq, and we could
No,
do.
I'm sure.
We
I
could
actually,
do.
I
We could do
actually
a
just
drinking
searched,
game, and
I
you have to
searched
do a
on
shot.
Lyriq with a C.
Okay, I was
actually
like,
searched on that.
do a shot every time that you find the incorrect spelling of the word.
For no apparent reason, our bonus question is about Billy Joel.
Okay.
Billy Joel. Speaking of 1980, we drove a lot of these cars, or 1975, we drove a lot of these cars when I was in high school, beginning 79 and 80.
Okay.
A lot of good albums came out in that time, including Billy Joel's Glass Houses.
Okay.
Heck of a good album.
Okay.
That's a rocker.
Okay.
It's a rocker. If people my age remember Billy Joel, it's because of Glass Houses. I need you to tell me which of the following is not a Billy Joel album.
Now, if you'd said Billy Joel song, I might have gotten that, but
no.
a Billy Joel album, I got nothing. My
Yeah.
husband would know this. I do not know this.
You know, so also because I bothered to type these out, I'm just going to mention other albums that were cool when I was in high school. Dire Straits by Dire Straits and Some Girls by the Rolling Stones.
I was going to say Some Girls by Some Girls.
No. No.
Okay.
Rolling Stones. That's a good album.
Okay.
It's a good album. Are you ready?
Sure.
I need you to find the fake
The Fake.
Billy Joel album.
Okay.
Songs in the Attic.
Uh-huh.
Nylon Curtain. Piano Man.
Uh-huh.
London Calling.
I feel like London Calling was a song by somebody else.
Interesting.
So I'm going to go with that one.
You are 6 for 6 today. London Calling was on the Clash album, London Calling. But it is, that's a song.
I'm like, I feel like that's a song by
That's
somebody
a fine
else.
song. Yeah. Punk Legends, The Clash.
Okay.
Songs in the Attic had the song Billy the Kid on it, 1981. Nylon Curtain, Prussia, and Allentown.
Ah.
Huge.
I like pressure.
Huge chart hits. 1982. Piano Man had
Piano Man?
Piano Man on it. I'm glad you know that. 1973. Way back then. And then finally London Calling we talked about. There you go.
Yeah.
That's a
So
quiz.
I have to say,
You went 6 for 6
this is
on
probably a
the
record
worst constructed quiz
ever. But yeah, that's probably why I got 6 out of 6.
I have just signed it.
This is the
There you
first
go.
time I think I've ever gotten all of the questions right. Ever.
Yep. Novas.
Nova, and the bonus. I got the bonus too.
By the way, this also
And it was
gives me.
music related.
I wrote an article about the Novas cars, so I now I have an excuse to link to it.
Okay.
So we should talk about that real quick. Every episode we do a on consumerguide.com we do a blog post
Yes.
that summarizes everything on there with links to our guests, to our articles, to whatever you came up with regarding whatever we talked about.
Right.
All that stuff. So people should check that out. Also, hello, new listeners.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot. I don't know what happened. It's weird to think that maybe good content helped, but surge in listeners last couple of weeks. So welcome,
Awesome.
new listeners. We appreciate it.
Yes, and Happy New Year. And it's good to start the new year off strong.
And I got a lot of compliments, a lot of letters, a lot of emails about Jim Hurlis from CBRE, stuff people never thought about.
Yeah.
So I'd like to take credit for that, but actually they reached out to us.
Yeah.
So it just happened to be a great guest and a good topic.
Yeah. I got a lot of messages as well about, wow, I never knew that. I learned a lot on this episode.
I never really thought about the placement, though.
Yeah.
Charging stations have to go someplace.
Yeah.
And they're weird because they don't take up nearly as much space as a gas station. So they go on someone else's property, typically. Mm-hmm. Like they don't go in places that have an address.
Right.
So they have to go somewhere. And as you've noted, and this might be a topic we need to circle back on at some point, a lot of these locations kind of suck.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and Tesla stations I've seen placed in some bad places, but they're usually adjacent to something with light.
Yeah.
Like on the interstate, I see Tesla stations literally on the back lots of gas stations.
Right.
The good thing about that is these gas stations are 24/7. Mm-hmm. So I think the placement there is pretty careful. But I've been to places like I was at when I drove for Christmas, when I drove the Lyriq up to Milwaukee, I ended up at a Electrify America station in a Walmart parking lot. The Walmart was closed. Mm-hmm. There were no parking lot lights on.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird. And the infrastructure, the Electrify America infrastructure is very minimalist. It's there's the you have the stations themselves, the actual charge units, and then some poles that you're going to hit if you don't have your headlights on.
Yeah.
Because they're narrow and gray and they don't show up at night. So there's not a lot of infrastructure. They need lighting.
Yes.
Really.
Well, they need lighting, they need cameras, they need, like, I wrote an article, I would say last year at Christmas, about, it was an open letter to anyone building an EV station, or an EV charging station or building EV infrastructure. And it was just like my list of must-haves for future charging stations. It was like lights, safety. As a woman charging alone, I won't go to a charging station by myself. I make my husband go with me. I don't feel comfortable going there, sitting in the back of a parking lot by myself for an hour.
That makes the thing you did with Volvo and Starbucks interesting. Mm-hmm. Because that's the kind of infrastructure we probably need.
It is. It's 100% the kind of infrastructure. And that was one of the things that I brought up in the article is Starbucks, Panera, Cracker Barrel, all these things that are along the highway. Why don't you have chargers there?
And I wonder about that, though, because, I mean, there are Starbucks along the interstate, but they're not going to be high volume, right? You're going to have a station or two, right? A charger or two.
There are usually, at all of the ones that I went to, there were either 2 or 4.
Okay. And you're going to need more than that to make this infrastructure thing work for interstate stuff, because people make decisions based on their bladders too, and they want to just stop someplace. And by the time they've decided to do that, they haven't really checked their app. And how easy it is to check the app while you're driving.
It's not.
Yeah. So you want to be able to just stop someplace spontaneously and have it work out for you.
Well, and so speaking of our guest last week, one of the things that I thought was really interesting that I learned, and I haven't looked into exactly why this is, but one of the things that he said is that charging stations are not allowed to advertise on the side of the highway that there's a charging station.
That will change.
It will change, but
it seems profoundly stupid.
It's like a federal law or something, and I haven't looked into what that is.
And that's the problem. I think the problem isn't that they're not allowed; it's that they're just precluded because they haven't it hasn't been voted in yet.
Yeah.
It's just old. It's old legislation.
Yeah.
And what we've learned about things like autonomous cars and electric cars is that the legislation trails the reality
by a lot.
And that's why we have all these problems with General Motors is having these problems with its autonomous vehicles.
Right.
Well, that and they hit old ladies. But that's a problem too. But ultimately, I don't think that in general legislatures keep up with technology very well.
No.
So the laws that affect what we're doing in real time are dated.
Yeah. So
Necessarily.
I have to imagine that the law says only gas stations, hotels, and restaurants are allowed to advertise.
I think it might specifically list that.
And so that's why they aren't at the moment. So if you are listening to this and you want that to change, because I know I do, write your congressperson.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's federal, right? That's strictly
Yep.
federal. Those blue signs are federal. They're on the interstates. Yeah, interesting.
Yep.
And it is weird, and it's weird that Taco John's is there, but Electrify America is not.
Well, is it though? Because Electrify America is kind of a non-entity anyway.
But here's the thing about that. If I pull up to Taco John's and get some of those spicy tater tots, I will probably get them in a reasonable amount of time.
That is true.
If I pull up to Electrify America and hope for a charge, it's a crapshoot.
It is. Well, okay. I know we're running out of time, but small digression. When I was driving the Cadillac Lyriq, I wanted to try to get up to 100% charge before I went to Indianapolis. So I went to the Electrify America station by my house. And two problems. One, it said that there was a charge port open, and I get there, and it was the CHAdeMO port that was open, not the CCS that was on the same.
Which, again, used only by
charger.
old Mitsubishis.
And the Nissan Leaf.
And the Nissan Leaf.
And then the other part of that was I had to park catty corner into the spot to be able to reach the cord over to the port. So like the cord wasn't long enough to reach where my port was. Whether I backed in or pulled in straight, like it was not going to reach my charge port.
This is going to be a problem when other brands start using Tesla stations. Mm-hmm. All Teslas charge at the back, and the cords at the units are very short. You back into them, and I don't think there's enough cord to reach, especially cars that have them somewhere high on the rear fender.
Yeah.
It's going to be an awkward reach.
Yep.
So that's got to be addressed too. Mm-hmm. But there you have it. Guess what we did?
We talked a lot.
We did. Well, you talked a lot.
You talked a lot.
I just stood here, sat here nodding patiently.
Uh-huh. Whatever. I was drinking my coffee.
Happy birthday, Jill.
Thank you.
Happy 6-0. All right. Thanks to Stanley Horaczek of Popular Science. Thank you, Jill. Thanks to producer Randy and the good folks here at TalkZone. And thanks to my good friends Steve and Johnny. Appreciate you helping us out with the show. We'll talk more about cars again
Next week.
Remember to check us out at consumerguide.com.
The Car Stuff Podcast is produced by J-Turn Media.
To advertise on the show, please drop us a line at carstuff@consumerguide.com.